Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to have you join us here tonight. Well, we have a very special guest tonight, Michelle T. Of course, Michelle T has been with us for a while, and we often see her in the chat room making requests. Of course, she did make some requests tonight, and we played her song. But here is tonight. She's here with us tonight, and we're going to talk with her a bit about her book. Well, Michelle T, welcome. How are you today?
I am feeling great. Thank you, Dr. E. Thank you for having me.
Wow, I am just amazed at your voice. It is so soothing.
Thank you for that.
Well,
Um,
good.
I am a counselor by profession before
Oh,
I started writing, so maybe it's the counseling voice that you're hearing, yes?
well, that's really nice. It's a very pleasant sound. So thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
I would love to talk with you about your book, but before we go there, I would love to just get to know you a little bit. I've heard your voice, and it's a really nice voice. So let's hear about you. Who are you, Michelle? Tell us about you a bit.
Okay, I am Michelle Thompson, born in Kingston, Jamaica,
Uh
over 50 years ago. We'll leave it at that.
So you're not a spring chicken?
In some ways, yes. But I'm well. So most of my life I've spent in Toronto, Canada,
Mhm,
because as a young girl, my mom sponsored. My mom went to Toronto, Canada, and sponsored me and my siblings. And so
mhm.
I've been in Canada for over 40 years. And
Mm.
yeah, and now I'm slowly making my way back to Jamaica. I'm in Jamaica right now as we speak. Hence,
Okay, so
I'm,
you're enjoying the warm temperatures there, eh?
yes, yes, it has been a dream. Had been a dream of mine, and now I'm actually living that dream. It's now a reality where I can come back to Jamaica, and I go back and forth actually. I go back
Mhm.
and forth from Toronto to Kingston, yeah, a couple
So
times
what
a
is it
year.
like? What is it like returning to your homeland? How does it feel? Does it feel nostalgic? What is that
You know,
emotional stress like?
yeah, well, someone put it nicely, and I concur with this statement that you have to really want to be in Jamaica, to live in to go abroad, experience life abroad, and come back to Jamaica. Because after 40 years of living, where everything is so convenient and easy, and then to come back to Jamaica, it's not the same. You have to
Mhm.
really want to be here. So
Okay.
it's not something that I would recommend for anyone who, people say all the time, oh, I would love to go back to Jamaica. You got to know why you want to come back to Jamaica. Again, as a young child, I left. When my mom had sponsored me, I wanted to stay in Jamaica, but
Mhm.
as a child, I had to migrate. So I went with my mother, me and my other siblings. I have a brother and two sisters, so the three of us,
Mhm.
sorry, the four of us, went with my mom. She went first and then sponsored us. So it's been a good life in Canada. It's just that I was never really accustomed. I never grew accustomed to the cold. Um,
Oh my, oh
Even
my.
though the
S-
weather
s-
is much better now, I can tolerate it. But I always dreamed of returning to Jamaica. Yeah.
that's a nice sentiment. I think that's something that a lot of us here would love to do. Go back home, but not quite sure how to make that transition. So that's something we should talk about another
You know
time
what?
as a discussion.
You know what? A lot of people, um, you go over there, you get caught up in the workforce. You're
Mm-hmm.
working, you're making money, maybe money that you never made in Jamaica. You can
Mm-hmm.
buy a house, you're married, you start having children. And then your children start having children. And
Mm.
before you know it, you have grandkids and you're attached to your grandkids and you don't want to leave. Uh, or you're attached to easy access at the bank. You have your credit card, you can always flick it out, and that ease of life. So to come back to Jamaica, I remember before I went back to Toronto in December, the government, one of their, I don't know if it was election thing, but the
Mm-hmm.
government said that we're going to fix the road. We're going to fix the road. And that was my prayer because in Jamaica, the roads were so bad, so
Wow.
bad.
Wow.
But since I've been back in January, I tell you, the roads
Different.
beautiful. It's like you're
Yes.
driving on the highway. The main roads, some of the back roads still need doing, but they
Mm-hmm.
concentrated on the main roads, and it makes it so much better to drive. Because when you have to drive in the potholes and stuff, you're gonna say, "But when I was in foreign, I didn't have to deal with so much potholes," you know. So that's why I
Well,
say you really
we'll
have to
talk
want to
we'll
be.
talk more about this at another juncture because I can be distracted and not focus on why I'm here tonight.
That's true, but I love talking about Jamaica, and my book is based on Jamaica, so we can just segue right into my book.
Okay, where in Jamaica are you? What
I'm in
area?
Kingston. I was born, and I don't know the country. I always say
Uh-huh.
I need somebody to adopt me from the country to get me going there. But yeah, I'm in Kingston. Yeah,
Okay, so you're in Kingston and you have always lived your life in Kingston.
yeah.
What school did you attend while you were there?
I went to St. Joseph Primary. I think
Uh-huh.
it's a Catholic school. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's now St. Aloysius because the boys and the girls, it's now, I think it's co-ed now. Yeah,
Cool. No, okay, cool.
yeah, yeah.
All
So
right.
that's in Kingston. That's at Duke Street. Yeah.
Okay, good. So we get to know you a little bit and hear your journey back to Jamaica.
Yeah.
But your book, A Way to Escape, that's an interesting topic.
Okay.
Why a way to escape? What were you escaping from? And
Okay.
two.
Okay. Well, that story really, the name of the book actually came from a journey that I took to Iran. I went to the Middle East at a
Uh-huh.
time when Iran and America were butting heads. Well, they're always butting heads, but at that time, Bush called Iran the axis of evil.
Evil, yes, yes.
Yeah, and where I lived in Toronto, I had lots of Iranian friends, and it was a Persian area where I lived. A lot of Middle Eastern people lived there, and so
Hmm.
I had friends from there. And a friend of mine invited me, and it was, I tell you, the best, 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 best trip. I've been to Europe,
Uh-huh.
and I like Europe, but the Middle East, for me, really holds a special place. The hospitality, and just it reminded me so much of Jamaica that when so the title came from people when I went there. People say, "Oh, you better have a way to escape when you go to Iran because war might break out. You better have a way to escape." So okay, so I started writing that journey,
Hmm.
and I got the title, okay, A Way to Escape. However,
Mm.
my first editor, when she read it, she said, "Michelle, you're writing so much about Jamaica in that story. Why don't you just write about Jamaica?" And so
Mm.
I took her advice and I started writing about Jamaica. But Jamaica was centered around my family. And it just so
Mm.
happened that the title, because of the story where my mother and my father got married, moved from inner city to middle class, but my father was an alcoholic.
Oh, hold on. I don't want to go there yet. That's
Okay.
giving away a
That's
lot.
the way
I
the
want to
titles.
build
I was
up to
just
this.
the title. Sorry, I was just giving you the name of the title and the reason why I switched from the Middle
Yeah,
East to Jamaica.
I can see you're excited. Well, talking with you so far has been great. Now, I want to talk about the reason for the book a little bit more before we go into the full content of the book. So, why did you write this book? What's the motivation behind this book?
Okay. So as I started to say that I started to write about the Middle East,
Hmm.
but I was writing about Jamaica. Well, because it reminded me so much of Jamaica, the climate, the weather, the hospitality of the people, the friendliness.
Hmm.
I was writing about Jamaica. So when I switched now from not writing about the Middle East to Jamaica, I could use the title A Way to Escape because it covered a way to escape in Jamaica.
Mm.
So, and that was my mom's journey, a way to escape my dad. I know you,
Oh,
yeah,
so
yeah,
you said that you hinted that you moved from lower class into middle class in Jamaica,
yes.
and I don't know what that means, but we'll
Okay.
talk. You probably can define what that is. But
It,
having gotten to middle class, what was the genesis? What happened there?
well, I was a young child then,
Hmm.
but when I say middle class, it's not upper middle class. It's right there, middle class, trying to get up to. So it would be okay. So where we lived, when I say middle class, is owning your own home.
Oh, you owned your home. That's
My
good.
parents own their own home, so it's moving from tenement or rental to
Hmm.
owning your own home.
Oh,
So
that's
they,
nice.
yes, so they own their own home, and at that time it was four of us. My father was a fireman, and my mom, my father. I'm not sure. I'm and my story is loosely based off my family's journey, but my father was adopted. So we don't
Mm.
really know the backstory so much, his backstory so much, but the fact that he was adopted and maybe not really having that close contact with his real bloodline, um, maybe that's why he turned to alcohol to pacify whatever he was feeling, and so because of that, he was abusive, and
So you said your father was an alcoholic. How
mhm.
did you know that? How did that
Yes,
display itself?
yeah,
How did that work itself
he
out?
drank, and then when he drank, he was abusive to my mom. He would get
Mm,
drunk, like Jamaican men love white rum, and I think that still applies today. So he would
mm.
get drunk, and when he came home, he would want to fight with my mom.
Wow.
So as a young child, we witnessed that, and that's
How did that affect you guys?
it affected us. It was sad because we had good times. My father wasn't always drunk, but when he was drunk, it was bad. So we had good times. And my story doesn't just cover the alcoholism. It covers the joys. It covers my father taking us to Christmas market to buy
Mm.
our Christmas gifts, taking us downtown to buy our school uniform or school shoes, taking us to Dunn's River Falls. And so we had good times. It's just that the bad became so bad that my mom had to find a way to escape from him. And
Okay, so you're talking about something that is not unique. Nobody is actually one capacity. There are several drawers or several bins that they have. Some are bad, some are good, some are indifferent.
yes,
And you're talking about somebody who have had some experience with people who have been alcoholics. I'll tell my story another time, but,
If
but
you're from Jamaica, you probably can relate.
I can relate to some degree, right? But I can see this. I can see what's happening where where the fathers are abusive and in some ways, some shape. Was he abusive to you guys as kids as well, or just
No,
to your mom?
just to my mom. Yeah, just to my
Okay.
mother. Yeah.
So, what did your mom do? What did she do when she was being abused? Did she
Found a
just
way
sit
to,
by and take it?
she found a way to escape. Hence the
Okay.
name of the story, A Way to Escape. So,
Okay, you're dragging me kicking and screaming into the story. Okay, so now you, you said you had this is the second book that you have published?
the first one is in Jamaica, the growing up with my parents
Hmm.
and the lifestyle and and the abuse and my mom leaving my dad. The second book is my mom's journey when she went to Canada. Now, my story is the books are loosely based on my story. So the
Okay,
first one is maybe 75-25, and you won't know the 25. You won't know which is true or false. The
okay.
second book is I would say 50-50. Um,
So, in essence, this book is really not non-fiction. It is somewhat fictional,
it's fictional. It's
but
fictional.
based on some real life experience that you
It's
have had.
fictional, and I can read a little excerpt of it if you like.
What do you have from the book that you want to read for us? For us.
I just read a little bit of how the main characters, my mom and my dad, and I get it's fictional, but it's loosely based on their story. I'll read a little bit about that. But
Okay, let's.
how I put the book together, the
Uh-huh.
first book took about 3 years,
Wow.
and it's over 8 years old because I was working at the time. So
Hmm.
I and again, because of my love for Jamaica, I could pull on the experiences that I had easier than even the third one that I'm writing now when I was living in Canada. But the first, yeah, Jamaica was right there. I could pull on that easily. But yeah, if you
So
want,
let's hear your excerpt. It's over
oh,
to you.
okay. It wasn't long after Rose moved on her own that she met an admirer. He lived in the house across the street from hers, a fireman stationed a 15-minute walk away. He worked shifts and had ample time to study her movements. Rose noticed a few mornings leaving for work. The tall, trim man was either at his gate or on his veranda. He pretended not to watch her, keeping his head in his newspaper. She felt his eyes trailing her down the road. One evening, as she was coming home and he was at his gate, as she passed, he smiled and tipped his head. Good evening. Keeping her eyes straight ahead of her, she slanted her lips at his words. He took it as a smile. The next evening, he was there again. Hello, beautiful. He greeted her with smiling eyes. She appreciated his welcome and liked his dreamy eyes, yet she kept going, thinking, if he's a decent man, he will make his intentions clear. The following Saturday evening, coming home from the corner shop, Rose held her shopping bag close to her chest. She saw her admiring neighbor outside the shop and sensed he was waiting for her. As she walked by, he stepped in front of her. Can I offer to carry your bags, nice lady? No, it's all right, she replied as she continued on her way. I beg your pardon. My name is Arthur Tomlinson. Arthur walked so close to Rose, he brushed shoulders. She pulled away and looked up at him. Nice to meet you, sir. May I ask your name? She glanced at him. Rose. When she got to her house, she attempted to open the gate with the grocery bag in one hand and her purse in the next. He swiftly saw an opportunity and said, Let me hold it for you, reaching for her bags. He walked Rose through the gate to her room and placed the groceries on the table. She showed him to the gate. They stood there in silence. It was time for him to go. He held on to the gate, shuffling in place, thinking of how to get his point across. If you want, his response failed. Okay, some parts I want you to buy the book.
So far, it's interesting.
Some part, yes. He saw a chance he saw his chance abating and blurted, "Is it okay if I visit you again?" "If you want." Her response feigned disinterest, but he had ignited a flame she thought had long burnt out. He too had an inkling he had lit a spark, not as intense as his, but a flicker nonetheless. From that evening walking Rose home, Arthur schemed to make her his wife. He bought her the basics from the neighborhood shop, and when she trussed fish or cowfoot from the handcart vendors, he saw to her promissory notes were paid. On his days off, he met her after work and escorted her home, or they went for walks at Kingston Parade and Racecourse. One night, at his suggestion, they stopped at the neighborhood bar. A man standing next to the jukebox filled it with coins and selected Alton Ellis, the Paragons, and the Heptones. As Arthur sipped his beer and Rose her ginger ale, they eased into conversation. He asked, "So you think you'll get married again and have more children?" "Anything is possible if the right man comes along." After some hesitation, he asked, "So you think I could be that man?" His eyes were penetrating. "You know I have feelings for you."
Okay, let's stop there. This is getting rather steamy. I thought this was an escape. What am I escaping from here now?
No, this is 256 pages. I just read you one page. You're not going to
This is
get the
getting
whole.
really, really steamy here.
No, if you don't mind, there is.
Yes.
I just want to bring it over to where, if you don't mind, I have
Yes,
something.
go ahead. This is your show. Yeah.
Okay, so before the night ended, he learned she had a birthday the following month. He
Mhm.
told her Sam Cooke was coming to Jamaica at that time and asked if she'd like to go. "He's my favorite singer," she told him.
Wow.
Yeah, that
You're a
night,
really good writer.
the night of the concert, Sam's romantic crooning enhanced the mood. And after the show, they walked home arm in arm. Rose hung a sheet to separate Audrey's sleeping area, and he stayed the night. Let me end with this. It took a couple more months, but before the year ended, his plans came true. Arthur Tomlinson married 25-year-old Rosemary Crawford, his Blackberry, 10 years his junior.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, that's very interesting. You had a vivid imagination there.
Yeah, that's the life of a writer, an artist. Yes, you paint the picture that's in your mind.
Good, and I like the picture that you painted with words, in
Yes,
that it became a little bit vivid as to what it is that was going on, how they reacted to each other. You could feel the tension
my
between
writing
them.
is very descriptive. I that's the way I write. Like it's like it's written like a script. So if you were
Mm,
to say want to put a play to this or a movie,
mhm.
you wouldn't have to write the script anymore. The book is a script in itself because it's
Okay,
descriptive.
so that is the first book, right?
Yes, yes.
Now, how do you get a second book out of this?
Okay. All right. So I just read for you how they met.
Hmm.
So you have to read the book to see how they parted.
Mm.
And
Oh,
when,
they parted. Okay.
yeah,
So this then is a simile of your dad and your mom.
yes,
Okay, good. Not exactly, but loosely based on that. Now,
Well,
No,
yeah, it's that's kind of yeah,
that's a
close to my,
75%.
yeah, exactly.
All right. So now we know how your dad met your mom and how they got going with this thing. Now, they have been living in Jamaica for a while, and your dad became abusive. And of course, you'll tell us more about that in the book. And we want to encourage you guys to buy this book so that you can get an idea as to what's really going on. So, you want to take us into this second book that you have written. I suppose it doesn't make sense to buy the second book unless you have actually purchased the first book
I
because
think
you won't
so.
have a
Yeah,
history.
yeah, because the first one really is the meat of everything. It
Mhm.
covers, it not only covers the family's journey, but it it covers Jamaica. If you
Mm.
really want to reminisce about the past and all that, you pick up this book. You know, the street dances that we used to go to,
Mhm.
the gunboat beaches, the that you know that we used to go to, and as children when we go downtown to shop for Christmas gifts.
Mm.
It's just churches that we. It just really encompasses everything about Jamaica. Going to where I lived in Kingston, I lived in Doncaster, and at the
Mhm.
end of the road, end of the street, there was the beach.
Mm.
Not there anymore because they filled it so it could become like a highway type of thing from taking
Okay.
downtown out.
Doncaster is close by Camperdown area,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
O-
It's further east of Camperdown, so it's a little before you get to a Mountain View.
Okay, okay. There's a theater out there at some time.
Rialto Theatre, Rialto Theatre. It's a very
Okay.
popular area. It's close to Rollington Town and Vineyard Town, and those areas were like back in the day.
Mhm.
Those areas were popping. So the beach was at the bottom of the road, and so as a child, especially at summertime, that's where we spent all our days.
Is that where number 27 bus used to run? Is it
I
number
think
27?
that was Mountain View. It passed along Whitbread Road, and I think it went up to Mountain View. But
Number
number two
two, yes.
at 24.
Okay.
I think 24 went to Harbour View.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah,
I remember those days.
yeah,
That's my
yeah.
old stomping ground.
But it was
Well,
beautiful because I mean, as a child, we grew up. We had what lots of people, even abroad. My friend abroad, England, didn't have a fridge, so I
mm,
grew up. We grew up with a fridge in our house. You know, we grew up with television in our house. We had
that's
our
cool. You're
stereo.
real middle class.
Yeah, we had, you know, we had our leather sofa. Thanks to my mom and my grandmother, we give them kudos because they were hardworking women and you know really strong women who really looked out for the family, and they stuck
Okay,
together.
so having gone to Canada, where does this book end? The first book,
Okay,
where does it end?
the
And where does the
first.
second book start?
Okay, so the first book, I can't. That's a giveaway. I can't. But I can't. I can't. I can't do that
Okay.
to my viewers.
You see,
I mean,
you came here, so I'm going to ask the questions. You can answer them
yeah,
if you want to.
I can't tell you that. I can't tell you where it ended. But what I can say is because the couple that I read now, they how they
Uh-huh.
met, because of the alcoholism and the abuse, my mom had to leave. And that
Mhm.
was her way of escaping. So the story is number two is her journey now, and again, it's loosely based on her journey. But because I'm a dramatic, creative writer, I spice it up. So
So, so the second book then is more about your
her
mom's
journey,
personal
yes,
journey.
yes,
Oh,
yes,
that's interesting.
yes,
You want you do you have an excerpt about from the second book that you want
yes.
to read as well?
I
That
can
should be
just,
interesting. I would love to hear the
yeah.
segue here.
Okay,
Let's hear it.
all right. Okay, so actually, I'm going to start at the beginning and skip over and try to, but I'm going to try to give you a story,
Hmm.
even though I'm going to skip certain parts. In the summer of 1970, the Jamaican community along Eglinton Avenue at Oakwood was abuzz. Jamaicans away from home parlayed the Toronto West End Strip. Passing cars flew black, green, and yellow Jamaican flags high, entertaining the neighborhood with two loud drum and bass beats, their drivers honking horns at nice looking ladies. Ladies like Rose, who was new to Toronto, and her friend Girlie, seasoned to the West End community, were decked out in sleeveless summer dresses and matching sandals. Near the end of their stroll, the two friends bought a couple of lottery tickets at the corner store for the $1 million draw later that night. Giddy from the prospect of a winning ticket and a dream of a mansion in the hills of St. Andrew, back home, they waltzed into Pepper Pot, the restaurant next door. The Jamaican owned eatery was a social hub for Caribbean people, landed and undocumented, for the chance to lime or catch up on yard. From the Duke, the 40-seat establishment was almost at full capacity. From the Duke box, Bob Marley chanted "Lively Up Yourself," and the patrons swayed in their seats and pranced on the dance floor. Amid laughter and the pounding of dominoes, the 70s rhythm never sounded sweeter. Before leaving the restaurant, Rose and Girlie went to the restroom. They freshened up and, satisfied with themselves, exited into an unusual quiet atmosphere. The music had stopped, and an ominous, panicky sound replaced it. The women stood outside the restroom door, huddled beside each other, wondering what the matter was. Standing as if frozen in place, the waitress that served them earlier bumped into them at the door. Her slender body stooped against the wall, moved quickly. Her eyes were wide open and filled with fright. She was like a toad trying to escape menacing stone throwing boys. Only in her case, it was menacing immigration officers. Rose detected something afoot, and dread stirred within her. The waitress glanced up at them and whispered, "Immigration." Girlie audibly gasped and dropped to the floor, pulling Rose by the hand down to the floor with her. The young woman beckoned for the woman to follow her. Laying low on the floor, Girlie had a harder time rising for the dash out an incognito door that separated the restroom from the kitchen. Once on her feet, fear propelled her past Rose. Rose, running out into the darkness, was overwhelmed by the suddenness of everything. She slowed down and fell behind. Girlie noticed Rose was stalled, and she slowed enough to grab her hand. Rose tripped and her sandals fell off. "My shoes!" she cried out. "Don't stop, man, just come." Rose pulled from Girlie. "No, I'm not leaving it," she said, and shoved her foot into the plastic slippers. The strap across the toes had burst, and she hop skipped behind Girlie as they cut through the neighborhood back streets. It wasn't until at the corner of Eglinton and Batters Street, many blocks from Pepper Pot Restaurant, that Rose and Girlie finally stopped, the waitress in tow. A bus pulled up as they reached the bus stop. They got on the bus and, laughing nervously, counted their blessings for a lucky escape. They introduced themselves and learned that the young woman was Yvonne. Yvonne, settling into their seats, Rose caught her breath and asked Yvonne, "So what really happened back at the restaurant?" Rose was trying to understand how a joyous, carefree occasion ended with them running through the neighborhood like disbanded thieves. Yvonne closed her eyes and, breathing and out, she began, "It just happened so fast." She turned from one woman's gaze to the next and shook her head, coming to terms with the close call. "I was wiping down the counter and heard the partition clap together like somebody walking. I didn't look up at first, thinking nothing of it." She waved her hand. "As people come and go every minute." She ran her hand over the corners of her mouth and continued, Then I heard a male voice, Canadian accent, say, "Good evening, everyone." And that's when I looked up and saw the two of them. By now her eyes were watered, and she squeezed them to stop the tears from flowing. She wiped her moist fingers in her skirt and shrugged, straightening her shoulders. Yvonne paused to quickly run through her mind the last 8 months of living in Toronto and her plan to leave the country, which she had been devising since her first month in Canada. She muttered, "Immigration can't stop me," with a certainty that hardened her face. "Were you sure it was immigration and not police?" Rose asked, her brows narrowed, her eyes searching Yvonne's. Yvonne pulled back and said, "Because they had on their khaki uniform." She wasn't aware that Rose, new to Canada, wouldn't have known. Girlie butted in. "Yes, I can tell them anywhere in that khaki uniform. Although, is that all of them wear uniform?" Rose looked off, imagining the khaki wearing men walking in the restaurant surprising the patrons.
Wow, wow. That is so apropos for today.
Oh yes, oh yes, and
Wow,
that was written a couple of years ago.
wow,
But
wow.
I just shake my head every time. I'm like, wow, this is really so apropos for now. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Michelle, you have been a treat to talk with tonight. And I just want to give you a chance to promote this book a little bit more. Where can it be purchased? Is it available for sale right now?
Oh
Or is
yes.
there a third book
Just
coming or something?
yes.
What tell us
Yeah.
more about what's
This
going on?
this is the second. This is the first
Uh-huh.
book, and this is the second in the series. And I'm currently working on the third one, which will be due out next year.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I have. Let me just quickly plug a book that I have coming out. I think maybe in the summer. It's
Hmm.
going to be a series of six stories in one.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then I'm working on a children's book at the same time about a cat. Cat. So anyway,
Well,
quite
there you
busy.
have it.
I'm busy. So when you see me in the chat room, I'm writing while I'm listening. So the books can
Okay.
be had at bookstores, the major bookstores like Barnes and Nobles, and in Canada, Indigo and Chapters. Now, because it's new, and I'm a fairly new author, you have to order it off Amazon. But you can also get it from me because in Jamaica, my publisher is here and I can get the books from him. So people can order it from me. Right now, I've shipped some books to my friend Kitty K and JP and
Hmm.
Val and Hazel. I've shipped some books last week for them because it just came out. So people can
Mm.
get it from me as well as I said, Amazon. You have to order it though. If it's not showing, you order it from them and they'll ship it to you.
Awesome. Awesome.
Oh,
Well,
and
Michelle,
I don't
thank you
want to
so
forget.
much. Go ahead.
I don't want to forget. Excuse me. I also have it in audio.
Oh, you have an audio version.
I have the
Are you the
audio.
person reading?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
that should be fun.
Yes. So I have it in audio on my website because people, are traveling, people are busy, they're moving up and down, so they ask for audio. So you can get the audio version on my website. People can visit my website. It's michellefthompson.com. Michelle F as in Francis. So michellefthompson.com. That's my website, and you visit my website and you can get the books to buy there as well as the audiobook.
Of course, this information is in the chat room as well, so you guys can always visit there accordingly. Now,
And I have
that
giveaways. I have giveaways.
oh,
I
you
have,
do.
yes, I have giveaways. If you purchase the book, you WhatsApp me the receipt or whatever, you can get 100. I have a book, 100 gems
Mm.
um, of inspiration, and I have 365 daily word inspiration. So two.
What one of the things I want to talk with you about at another time is how does one become an author? What do we have to do to if we want to write books? A lot of us like to write but don't have the wherewithal or the know-how how to get going. So keep that and put
Oh,
us put stick a pin in that for a little bit. I don't want to discuss that tonight,
okay.
but I would love to talk with you about that one week.
First of all, I
Just
just want to say, without saying in depth, you really have to want to write. People say they want
mm,
to write, they have a story, but you have to start. You have to want to write and write,
you
not
have to
just
get the
want
fashion.
to write.
Okay, great. Well, guys, there you have it. I can talk with Michelle all night. But, Michelle, thank you so very much for being
Quite
here on our community chat tonight.
You're quite welcome. I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate Natural Vibes for having me. Yeah, really.
Hope you enjoyed the discussion tonight. And, folks, thanks for being here with us. This is Dr. E saying thanks again to Michelle T for being here with us tonight. And have yourself a wonderful night. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you very much.